Welcome to everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar, What's Next? Storytelling at Scale. My name is Diana Colts. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at Rivet, and my co-host today is Matt Malcolm.
Hey everyone.
Thank you for joining me, Matt. A few housekeeping items before we dive in. We're going to be using the full 30 minutes for the presentation. Feel free to use the chat window to send any questions that you might have, and we will follow up with you after the webinar. The webinar will also be recorded and sent out later this week. The slides will also be posted on SlideShare via LinkedIn. At Rivet here, collectively, our team has deep expertise and experience within user-generated content. Over 30 years collectively, we've been responsible for building some of the world's largest user-generated content platforms, including ratings and reviews platforms, community platforms, and even user-generated merchandising platforms. And so you can safely say that content is in our blood. We have much experience engaging and collaborating with agencies, which is why we're excited to talk with you all here today. We definitely believe that any story that can be told will be, and storytelling in and of itself is nothing new. Storytelling has been around forever. It's the way in which we orient ourselves and make sense of the world around us. But what's really come to light is the dawning of digital and how brands can more effectively tell their story and do so in a highly scalable manner, and that's really where Rivet comes in. We've developed and helped brands to capture, manage, and display all types of stories. So any format of content, whether that's high-def lengthy video content, high-res images, narrative to go alongside that, and then contextually relevant and rich metadata like location data to put these stories in perspective and make them discoverable for consumers. We can place that content anywhere it makes sense to inspire and drive action, whether that's organic reach and traffic, additional site engagement, or at the end of the day, conversion. But the large issue that we've learned about in the last few years comes with how to do this well at scale. And so, Matt and I have been at Rivet for multiple years, and over thousands of conversations with prospects and customers, we've been listening into, and hearing what those challenges are. So, Matt, can you kind of talk to us about some of the themes that we've learned about in the last few years?
Absolutely. I think the issue that probably comes up most frequently is having multiple systems and processes for managing user-generated content. So many brands have siloed solutions for social curation, reviews, satisfaction surveys, customer feedback, etc. And ratings and reviews have essentially become a commodity in retail and travel as well. So you've got multiple solutions, multiple vendors to deal with, all for essentially the same thing, and that's tapping into an audience to tell a brand story. Other challenges include disjointed reporting, poor content quality, lack of structure and context around the content, inflexibility to capture content in multiple formats, non-responsive engagements, as well as unscalable solutions, which you mentioned. So Diana, with all these challenges, who gets it and is doing it right?
Well, out there in the wild, there's a lot of retailers and brands that are doing this really well. So we compiled a couple of examples to share with you. One in particular I'm very fond of in the apparel space is with Rent the Runway. So they and ModCloth both do this really well. They are able to demonstrate and accurately represent the true fit of their products. And what you're seeing here on the screen with Rent the Runway is an excellent example of metadata at work. So you can go on their site and look at any piece of clothing and understand what it's going to look like on somebody with your size and shape. Another example in the home improvement space is with Houzz. Even Zillow is getting in on the action. These sites that were traditionally content-oriented, you could think of them as publishers, discovery mechanisms, if you will, for information. They are now getting into the space of merchandising products that are behind these stories. So on Houzz, people are sharing their renovation projects, and it includes photo and video content. And now you'll see merchandised in Houzz all of the products that are part of that renovation. So they've effectively become a retailer, all through stories.
So much more inspirational.
That they are powering through the masses.
Yep.
Have you been to Orlando?
I have. I've been multiple times, love it there. my most memorable experience was probably my first time to Orlando, and it was for a family reunion at Disney World. So we rented a bunch of cabins at Fort Wilderness. I was really young, but still remember it, and it was the first and probably the only time our whole family will be together in one place. So really cool, something I'll never forget. Visit Orlando is an awesome example of a brand getting storytelling right. So a huge component of their rebranding initiative is to collect thousands of stories like my story, and display them in a number of different formats. So they're capturing video, full-length video, HD photos, curating content from social, and displaying it, and inspiring people who want to go to Orlando to actually book their trip there.
So it's just a definite emotional appeal and brings the experience of traveling to that destination to life.
Absolutely, and that site has thousands of stories across the board, from travelers, from kids, all the way up to families, grandparents. It's a really cool display of storytelling in action.
That's a really good example. And talk to me about what's happening in highly regulated industries like healthcare.
Yeah, this next example, if you'll click through, is another Florida company, Moffitt Cancer Center. So Moffitt's doing something similar to Visit Orlando, but instead of traveler inspiration, they've built a community inspiration. They've called it a community of courage, which is just a collection of inspirational patient and survivor cancer stories. One thing in particular that stands out with Moffitt is that they're soliciting for stories from multiple audiences. So they're asking for stories from patients, from their families, from doctors, medical professionals, from employees at the cancer center, and tapping into a bunch of audiences to tell the brand story. And what better way to do so?
So this challenge that you summarized earlier with capturing content at scale, that's really where the Rivet platform comes in. We help to solve that challenge, and we do so by directly capturing and then easily managing and automatically displaying content anywhere it matters to the consumer. And we do so through a beautiful web-based application. That's how the consumer interacts and provides that content, whether it be narrative or photo plus video and narrative. And when we think about it, we want to kind of pass, if you will, to social, because with word of mouth and with the dawning of social media, it's very much expanded upon the way in which we all share. And if you can think about social curation as being the past, Rivet's collection of stories is very much the future. So the two go hand in hand and complement one another. Here you're seeing an example in the West Elm brand of a story that's being shared out in social on Instagram. And you have a story that's somewhat buried in hashtags. The image that's been shared is low resolution, and it lacks a lot of metadata. We really don't know who Sarah is. We don't know if I'm West Elm, if Sarah's in my database, and if she's one of my best customers. If Sarah had been solicited to share a story directly through Rivet, her frame of reference would change too. Instead of being kind of ego-driven within social, she would be participating with the brand in mind. And here's how this story might look. We would get multiple pieces of content. There's 3 photos here shared instead of the 1. They would all be high-res images. And the story itself becomes much more blown out, if you will. I understand now that she had been saving up for this chair and happened to come home one day and her boyfriend had surprised her and bought it. That story was completely buried in the social post, but it comes to the forefront with Rivet, and it's much more emotional appeal. And all of a sudden now your brand's attached to this.
Very really brand-centric, not ego-centric at all. It's about the brand. Yep.
So there's multiple ways, Matt, we work with our customers. Oftentimes they'll execute always on strategies, and then many customers also have campaign-based strategies. We want to focus on results. We promise that to all of you listening today, and so we queued up multiple examples of use cases combined with the results that they've seen for both always-on and campaign-based strategies. So walk us through here the story of Viking.
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier I shared some of the struggles marketers are having, multiple UGC solutions, poor content quality, fuzzy ROI for UGC initiatives. So how are brands addressing that issue? So these examples will touch on that a little bit. The first one's Viking, and this example is a little different because Viking, they hadn't done anything with UGC when they came to us. So they didn't have reviews on site. There was no visual content. It was just itinerary descriptions, and that's pretty much it. They also have an interesting kind of dynamic in that their target audience, their target demographic is 60 plus. So they considered some social curation, but the problem is a lot of their audience they don't have Instagram, they're not on Twitter, so there's no way for them to solicit and get great content. So what they did is they did a campaign, touched all their passengers through a mobily optimized email, asked them to share their stories, and this is the end result of that. Diana, do you want to talk about some of the results?
Yeah, sure. And so Viking, one of their challenges is that they book 100% over the phone, and they have one static 1-800 number. And so as a marketing team, they are very challenged to understand how any of their marketing programs are moving the needle on bookings or conversion rates. And so they measure and manage their business by these two KPIs you see here, and those are both site engagement metrics for time on site and pages viewed. And when we launched the Rivet generated stories on their site and measured the impact that that had for visitors that came and interacted with those stories, we saw that those people spent 275% more time on site and viewed a lot more pages. So it just kind of speaks to the, we're visually oriented and we can get absorbed in the experience that other people have for something that we might be considering doing. Another great example in the home improvement space to kind of tie into the hows example, this is with a pure play online retailer, Build.com. They have a multi-year plan to change their business and build brand awareness. So they've been known as a retailer where you go when you know what you want to do at your house, you have your project planned, and you just need to go buy your supplies, and you know you're going to get great price, great customer service, and free shipping or fast shipping. What they haven't been known as, in the house example, is a place to come and be inspired and discover something that you need to do in your house. Get ideas. And so content, and in particular user-generated content, is propelling them to increase brand awareness. So they've been capturing, through the Rivet platform, before and after project photos. And they've been using those not only on their site but out in social, and those are the results I wanted to share with you. So as an example, they will put the Rivet generated stories in the ad units themselves and measure the impact that has versus any other format of ad that they'll run. And the return on ad spend in Pinterest is 300% greater, and the return on ad spend in Facebook is 170% greater. So just to put that in dollars, $100,000 ad budget in Facebook is behind Rivet generated story content, it is as if you had a $270,000 budget at your disposal. And then if we talk about return on ad spend in terms of just overall engagement, even when they post organically to their brand.com social page, to their build.com Facebook page, they consistently see 5 times the amount of engagement with that content compared to all other types of content that they're posting. So that's generating additional organic reach and traffic back to their site. The third example, a little bit lower in the funnel, is very much focused on conversion rate impact. So Austin Canoe and Kayak is an online retailer. They do have some stores, but the bulk of their business, over 80% of their sales, come from online. They compete with REI and Dick's Sporting Goods, and one of the challenges that they have is they sell highly considered products with their kayaks and paddle sports goods. And it's really difficult, especially if I'm not a 6'2", 300-pound male, but you want to know that you're going to be able to fit into a kayak that you're anticipating buying. And so those are purchases that you need to be comfortable making online. And what better way to get people exposed to their products and get excited and comfortable buying them online than to have other customers share their experiences. And this is very different than a rating and review, which is focused on the pros and cons of a product. This is showing people in their life going out. This is the fish this gentleman caught while he was kayak fishing, and that brings that entire product experience to life. So what we did was we conducted an A/B on-off split test at the product detail page level. 50% of the traffic saw the content, 50% of the traffic did not see the Rivet generated stories, and we measured what that impact was on conversion. For the highly considered products, those were products that were $2,000 and above, we measured a 121% increase in conversion rate. Across all SKUs that were included in the test that ran several months, the overall average impact was 61%. So huge.
How does that compare to your experience with reviews, implementing reviews, and the conversion lift that can generate?
So we've been in the space for a really long time, very well versed in reviews, and reviews are going to give you a lift of anywhere between 10 and 30% depending on the category. And I believe that Rivet and our capabilities is really the next wave of innovation that will significantly move the needle for retailers in terms of conversion. And it's no wonder that we're over-indexing against reviews, because we are visual creatures. Yep. And it is, our brain comprehends and processes visual 60,000 times faster than the written word.
I like to tell the story, too, of millennials like myself who are in waves and mass moving off of platforms like Facebook and onto things like Instagram and Snapchat. It's more visually oriented, easier to digest.
Yeah. And then on the campaign front, the difference here being there's a clear stop and start. The previous 3 examples we talked about were always-on mechanisms. And I should also note that if you want any more details about either Austin Canoe and Kayak, Build.com, or Viking, we have full case studies available on our website, as well as webinars for Austin Canoe and Kayak and Build.com. So I encourage you to go check those out. From a campaign, tell us a little bit about what T-Mobile did.
Yeah, definitely. If you're a baseball fan, you've seen this one. So T-Mobile is a partner of Major League Baseball and a huge sponsor of the World Series every year. For this particular campaign, what T-Mobile wanted to do was showcase the power. Their tagline is their data strong network. So they wanted to showcase the power of that data strong network. And to do that, what they wanted to do, their idea was to capture full-length HD videos of consumers, of people, their customers singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So something that wouldn't be possible with social curation and Instagram, you're limited to 15 seconds, Vine, 6 seconds. They wanted full-length, minute-plus-long videos of people saying, "Take me to the ball game." What you're seeing here is how they went about getting the content. The rights management piece is baked right in there. Click the checkbox. It becomes a piece of a brand-owned asset that they can use, repurpose in advertising. Their agency of record, Jack Morton Worldwide, took all the content we collected, stitched together a commercial that aired during games 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the World Series, showcasing all that great full-length user-generated content. One important note on this one is how quickly this campaign was planned and executed. It came together in just 3 weeks, and most of that was, as you can imagine, planning on the agency and brand side. We can get up and running in a matter of days on our end, or even hours. Also important to note the share rate. So of the videos they captured, almost 25% of those were shared out, a branded story shared out to their social networks, driving more people back into the experience.
Another example that we collaborated with an agency to execute was with WD-40. So there are over 2,500 documented use cases for the blue and yellow can, and the brand was relaunching their website, and the content for the new website was very much focused on merchandising and telling the story of all of these use cases. Well, the brand itself couldn't go out and produce 2,500 product videos to demonstrate all these use cases. So they tapped Rivet to help them capture the use cases in the form of photos and videos from their fans and customer base. And what you're seeing here are all these use cases documented. You can search and look at them by home and garden, automotive, and every category kind of in between and imaginable. And the results were interesting. They had done similar types of initiatives in the past with limited results. We received 4 times the amount of content and engagement than any other campaign that they had ever ran. And we often get the question when we're talking to folks about the drop-off rate, and it was very small, and that is true across the board, across our entire customer base. Because the platform has been built with a mobile-first orientation, the experiences themselves are really easy and kind of fun for consumers to get through, and so we experience very little drop-off. The third story albeit a little bit of a deviation from storytelling, comes from JanSport. So we're often approached with use cases that are outside of storytelling, and this is one of them. They came to us with the challenge of how can I make a better buying decision in terms of what inventory I should carry in my store. They had, in the last few seasons, been left with inventory that, didn't take off. Stylistically, it wasn't the right color. They thought it would be popular and it just wasn't. And unfortunately, they are styles that as a brand, they're unable to discount, and so they are not able to move that product with sales. So they're sitting on inventory that they probably will never get rid of, and so they thought, there's got to be a better way. So they came to Rivet, and via our visual answer choices here, we produced a survey for them. Happened to be 17 steps long, but they sent an email out to slightly over 2,000 of their best customers to get their feedback on what styles they like, and they had a 2.2% overall response rate from all of the emails that went out, 87% completion rate on a 17-step survey, and I think that just further speaks to the ease of use of our platform and how fun and easy it is for people to get through, especially in the mobile interface.
Yep, and engaging them on whatever device they're using, whether that be a tablet, a phone, or a desktop device.
Yeah.
Yep.
These insights will be driving their buying decisions for the fall of 2016, and we will have results from how this impacts their overall sales this time next year. We wanted to put together a summary of the best in terms of the latest innovations that have come out of the platform, those that we thought would be most appealing to agency audience. And Copper Mountain is a really good example of several of these recent releases. The first is our in-app integration. So Copper Mountain Resort, they're part of the Powder umbrella. They have an award-winning app called the Sherpa app, and if you are a skier, you may have actually used their app. It's really cool. It will tell you how fast you're going down the mountain, what elevation you're at, etc. And in the previous seasons, they had content in the form of audibles, so snippets of historical fact, if you will, jokes and things that have been dropped at latitudinal, longitudinal coordinates across the mountain. And what they wanted to do was to augment that and to bring in, more user stories. It had just been purely fueled by the marketing team there at Copper. And so they have this widely adopted and often used app for the skiers. And so it makes sense for us to integrate into their app and trigger the content collection experience or a capture experience from directly within the app, which is what you're seeing on the left-hand side. And then the location by pin capability, this is going to produce the effect of getting that content pinned along all of the trails that exist within the Copper Mountain Resort, which will be really cool. So in a very Uber-like or Lyft-like manner, that map can be moved and the pin placed precisely at the coordinate that that photo or video was shot and the experience was had on the mountain.
Yep. Diana, what percentage of people are willing to share their location with you? Is that something people aren't willing to share? Is that something people share? What percentage?
Yeah, so platform-wide, 85% of submissions contain location data, and that's even with this step being optional in the capture experiences. So more often than not, our customers launch with it being optional, and yet we still have an 85% completion for that step alone. And just to put that into comparison with consumer mindset out in social, only 5% of Instagram photos contain location data because we've gotten really smart to the tracking and effective privacy settings.
Yep.
And so people have turned that off. And so if you are a brand, especially in travel, it makes a lot of sense, and you want to collect that metadata, there's really no better solution than Rivet. Social sharing. This is where it's at when it comes to organic reach, additional traffic, and getting the word out there. So very important for a presidential candidate, and we're working with Ben Carson. Our recent release here, and what's new, is the ability to share at the grid level as well as the individual story level. So what you're seeing are the Pinterest and all of the social icons, but the example I have queued up for you is to show Pinterest and how you can click on that now and have the entire grid be pinnable to a board. And what's very unique to our platform is that 100% of stories that are shared through the Rivet platform are clickable, meaning they link back to your site, and that's how we're driving that additional site traffic. You're not going to get that from all of just the social, hashtag conversation that's taking place. The next feature is social curation. So Matt talked in some detail about the challenges that we heard from the thousands of prospects and customers we've talked to in the last few years. And it is not necessary to have additional systems for social curation. Rivet can also do that. We've released recently additional capabilities to pull in content and search by not only geo, as well as as you can imagine, user-based search, ID-based search, keyword, etc.
Yeah, so curation is still very important, is what you're saying, but just more of a smaller piece of the pie, if you will.
Yeah. Still important. And what you're seeing here is our API at work. So this is a custom display built off of our API. It's at the destination level of the OTA Crucible. So this is crucible.com. And any destination page on your site, you can go and see the curated content being pulled in. I'm very excited about this next one. This was just released last week, and we are now supporting embeddable ads within our displays. So this is the Lightbox view. We're also supporting the ads in our photo contest module inside the voting experience, which we aren't showing here, but if you're interested in that after the call, we can certainly follow up. And this is embedded advertising through Google Ad Tags. The examples for Wide Open Spaces, they are a publisher, and so they are effectively opening up sponsorship opportunities and a net new revenue stream for themselves. In terms of overall capabilities, this is just a subset. We pulled out some that we felt would be most important for this audience here today. The robust API being one of them. Anytime I've worked at the agency, one of their strong suits is their creativity and development with creative displays and custom integrations. Yep. And so the fact that every piece of content and data that's captured by our platform is also exposed in our API is important to note. Mm-hmm. If you have any questions about these capabilities, please feel free to contact us, and we'd be happy to do a deeper dive on any of them.
Yep, absolutely. If any of the use cases stuck out, or if you'd be interested in just a general account overview or overview for your account team, that's absolutely something we'd be happy to do, or just dive deeper if you have a specific use case you'd like to explore.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you are excited about the possibilities that this opens up for your clients, and please consider Rivet as a resource and a partner for creating new strategies for your clients in 2016 and beyond. If you have questions, feel free to send them to info@rivet.works and follow us on Twitter @RivetWorks. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.